Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Attract and Stand Out podcast. I'm your host, Darlene Hawley, and I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I am going to be introducing you guys to my friend, Lindsay Wiley. She is a CPA. She originally is from Maryland, but she moved to California back in 2012. And her story is going to be a lot of fun. As part of her bio, it says that she showed up in town with $300 in the bank, and she bought an air mattress and she started living on her mom's floor. And that was back in 2012. We're in 2021, so I'm sure a lot has happened since then. Lindsay, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Before we kind of dive into your story and really get into the details, how are you? I've been liking to ask this question at the beginning because I feel like we're in such like a new time where we can't just dive into the conversation. We have to like check in and see how things are going.
No, I absolutely understand. I'm honestly better than most. I'm blessed that so far, knock on wood, I've been able to get through this challenging time, as we all have, pretty unscathed. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's so good to hear because I know so many people are suffering and have
Yeah.
so many different things that have happened during this time. I'm just glad that everything's going well for you then.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I can't wait to hear a little bit about your story. The fact that you showed up from Maryland to California with $300 in the bank and you were sleeping on your mom's floor. And I know that was at age 34, and you said that you hadn't lived at home with your mom since like age 13. So that had to have been like a big shift. Tell us a little bit about what that's about.
So my parents divorced when I was about 2. My father moved to Maryland. My mother eventually moved out here to California in '89. That's when I split from her and moved back east to live with my dad and my stepmom, who've been now married 40 years. They married when I was about 3-4 years old. And my mom and I haven't had as most mother-daughters, we just had a very contentious relationship. So we never bonded very well. Even today, it's got its ups and downs for sure. But, I got to the age where I was around 34, and I was living with a man at the time and was trying to make that picture perfect, that ideal life of the white picket fence and the house and the husband and the kids and the job. And it all blew up in my face one night, and pretty disastrously. And I kicked him out of the house for a few days while I thought things through. And I called my biological mom. I was coming out to see her and my grandmother, who was still alive at the time, for a visit. And I simply just asked her, what if I stayed? And unfortunately at the time, she had just lost her husband to cancer. So it was kind of mutually beneficial. She kind of needed me to help kind of fill the gap of her loneliness and being alone, and I needed a new start. So
Yeah,
we did it. Yeah. And so I moved out here. Yeah, essentially $300 in my pocket. My last paycheck from, at the time, I think I was working on the farm and bartending. I had lost my previous job in accounting, and for about a month I kind of recouped, and then I got a job with Channel 6 News as their controller down in Kearney Mesa. So that kind of started me establishing myself out here in California. Worked with them for about 90 days. I found fraud. So that turned into a whole other bucket of worms. So I had left Channel 6 and then became the controller and CFO of a turf company called Easy Turf. And I worked with them for quite a few years until I started my own company. Well, I think it was back in 2016.
wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like you and your mom were able to both support each other during that time. And
We were. It was nice. We kind of really were able to kind of rebond again, kind of put the past aside, kind of get the demons, to go away, and kind of reestablish a new relationship. One that was built on, me being more mature, being an adult, having a more of an adult relationship with her. So it definitely did a lot of good for my psyche. I'd say it really did put to rest a lot of angst of childhood stuff you go through with your parents and things. And so it was great. And so we rebonded, and I lived with her until I want to say 2014. So I stayed with her for about 2 years. And then she started traveling and getting out there on her own again, trying to date. And so I, of course, was starting to establish my own circle of friends here in Oceanside. And my mom was charging me rent. She was charging me about $1,000 a month. And I went and house sat for one of my best friends for a week while she went to Panama. Ended up breaking my tailbone from my horse, had to have surgery. So I ended up on her couch longer than anticipated. And then she lost her job. And then about a month and a half later, I quit mine. And I just said to her, I said, why don't we just move in together? We can save money on rent. She was literally charging me less than my mom was. Plus she's more fun to hang out with. No offense to my mother. But, and so then I ended up moving in with her and lived with her for about, 3 years. And then that's when I met my now fiance. And then we moved in together, excuse me, right at the same time. She was bringing in her boyfriend. So luckily it all kind of really worked out together very well. Like we both got boyfriends at the same time, ended up she's now married to him and I'm now engaged. So we had a very parallel, existence at the time. So it worked out great.
That's how life works sometimes, right? Like things happen when they're supposed to, and you have people that come into your life for those seasons to help you through things. And then something happens and changes, and then you move on to the next adventure. So where in the process then did it start where that you started your own business? Tell us a little bit about how that transitioned.
So after working for Easy Turf for a while, and they got acquisition by a larger turf company out of Montreal, Canada. And I did not get along with the new CEO that came into the company. I got along very well with the owner. We had a very good working relationship, but the new CEO and I just did not click. And this has been a reoccurring habit in my life with working in corporate. Either you get along with me or you don't. I mean, I'm not a polarizing person, but I am outspoken, and I'm not your typical accountant. I'm not a quiet girl that just sits in the corner and counts her beans and leaves it at that. Like I'll say my piece. So either I get along with powerful men or I don't. In this instance, I didn't. And luckily I had enough. Sarah and I were able to take sabbatical for about 4 months, which essentially we just played, but it was good. And then during that sabbatical time, when money started running out, I thought to myself, well, do you really want to go back to corporate and go do this whole experience all over again, get to a point where you've grown to the level of CFO, you're at the top of your ranks, you're getting paid, you're capped at a certain pay level, which I knew I couldn't make more, because I'd kind of tinkered out in my salary in corporate over the last few years. And then I thought, you know what? Oh, everybody keeps coming to me to do their taxes or to advise on bookkeeping or CPA advice. And I thought, why don't I just open my own place? So I have a friend who was a millionaire. Let's not beat around the bush. And I wrote up a business plan and figured out how much working capital I initially needed to start the business. I offered him 40% of the company until I could pay him off, and then I had the right to buy him out. And he agreed. He gave me the initial capital, and off to the races I went. So I started working initially out of my home, and just doing simple tax returns, some bookkeeping work. Everything up until this year has been 100% referral for me, which is great. The business has grown quite well off of just referral alone. And so then about a year or so after that, I was able to afford to be able to start going to Hair Hub. Got my offices at Hair Hub, been there ever since, and it's going great. Yeah. And that's how I started. I just didn't want to go back to corporate. I'll be honest with you. That is really the motivation.
Yeah. And so many people can relate, or at least I know I can relate, because that was kind of a little bit my story with leaving retail management. I just didn't want to do it anymore. The thought of having to work for somebody else and not have any control over my schedule or my pay or those different things were
Yep.
huge pieces for me. Kind of like
Me
it sounds like
too.
it was for you.
Yes.
But
I was
yeah, I love that
oh,
you like reached out to like you're so brave, right? Because you reached out to a friend and was like, hey, let me present this business opportunity to you. Can I have your support and backing to that? I love that you were able to reach out and found somebody who could help you kind of get things going, because I know sometimes when people are starting businesses, we're not always sure where the money's going to come from. We're like, it's
mhm.
really hard to leave that steady paycheck that's coming in every single month, with has benefits on it, has 401k, has, those couple weeks of vacation that feel so great at the time, and then all of a sudden you're like throwing yourself into doing it on your own and starting your own business. What
Yeah.
was some of the things that came up for you during that time? Was there any like,
I mean, I will say, in some respects, starting the business wasn't as difficult maybe as some, because of the fact that I had only in prior years moved out here with nothing to my name and had to rebuild my life. I knew what it felt like and was kind of still in that position of eating hand to mouth. Even when I was working in corporate and stuff, I was just starting to be able to maybe put a little savings together. I mean, but as we all know, living in California is not exactly cheap. So everything I was making anyway, I was living paycheck to paycheck, regardless if I
yeah,
was working for corporate or not, even on that salary base, being able to just afford my new life out here. So the struggles and the trials and tribulations of like, where's my next check going to come from? My AR is, somebody hasn't paid me in 30 days. It was kind of familiar to me already. So as painful as it was, I don't think it was as painful or scary as it could be for most who try to take that leap, who are used to that comfort level. Up until about, I'd say 2 years ago, that was pretty much what I considered my comfort level, was just that scraping by mindset. So yeah, I mean, it was scary. Don't get me wrong. I knew I had bills to pay and things coming up at the first of the month, and I had clients that weren't paying me on time, and it's that fine line of calling them up and not trying to beg for your money, to try to still sound professional, but in the same respect, have a little urgency of like, I'm not going to be able to pay rent next month. Um, and trying to find that fine line of professionalism. And so that was the struggle, is trying to figure that out. And I struggled with that for the first couple of years until I actually reformatted my business plan of how I bill my clients. And then I don't chase my AR anymore. Now everybody's on retainer. And that retention that I get every month pays for the business. So that allows me now to focus on different things like promotion, marketing, advertising, those kinds of things, areas of business that I want to get more into, started, in other areas of business I kind of want to start to pull away from a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
What have been some of the hardest obstacles you've had as you've ran your business that you've had to overcome?
Money. Money. That's been one of the more exhausting ones. Also learning to try to teach myself that it's okay, like trying to learn your schedule, trying to kind of get myself out of the mindset of like the old ways, like you have to be at the office at 9 and you have to be there until 5 and you can't, and you're not being productive unless you're working those hours, and you kind of put yourself into that really fixed routine. Because what I was getting was people were calling me at 8 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I was working essentially all day. And so I had to teach myself that, the way you were thinking about being productive in a work environment, working for somebody else, is very different than in being productive and working for yourself. You have to find a balance, because when you are working for yourself, because it doesn't look like traditionally work, you're working all the time. You're either answering clients' emails, phone calls, text messages, you're doing marketing, you are in the night doing research, I'm in school. Oh yeah, and by the way, while I started this company, I went back and got my grad degree. So, let's just top that on. And so with that, and that was the difficult part, is to give myself the confidence that the old way wasn't going to work trying to run a business, and I had to find a new way to do that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that piece. Like we're so used to like that 9 to 5 mentality
Mm,
and, feeling like we have to work for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day, depending on what everybody's background is and where they worked at before. And then when you start your own business, you're like, oh, I'm going to have all this free time. Like I'm going to be able to like schedule things the way I want to. But then like you shared, like you get into your business and there's so many pieces to your business that you're responsible for that you don't even, a lot of times most entrepreneurs don't even think about like all the different departments they have within their business, yet
yeah,
they're a solopreneur in the beginning a lot of the times too, right? So they're the janitor, they're the CEO, the CFO,
exactly.
they're the marketing department, they're doing the sales, they're like,
Yeah,
doing the admin tasks and all, they're creating content for their business. There's so many different facets to it. And so it's
yeah,
hard sometimes when you first start out to figure out like, how am I going to do this where I still have time to like be with my family or do the fun stuff that I was planning on doing when I started my own business. So it's that balance of figuring out like what actually you want to take on for yourself
yeah,
and in
yeah, yeah,
what position
yeah,
to
and what
hire
work looks
for.
like. Yeah, and that was the other thing, is like what the idea of work looks like to you. When I was in corporate, being in a desk in an office all day, that looked like work. But there are a lot of aspects of my business that I do that don't look like work, that are fun, that I'm enjoying to do, like the advertising part of it, or even doing like this, a podcast. This is technically work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel like work, So it was like finding that mental side of yourself as well. It's like what feels like work and what doesn't, and that you are still working. It just feels different. And kind of going through that journey. I had a lot of anxiety in the beginning. I won't lie. I mean, my therapist got billed a lot during that time, because I was trying to reteach my brain what work is, what work looks like, and then what the value of that time is, even though it isn't maybe always directly related to a paycheck or to money. There's a lot of time in my day that I spend doing promotion and HR and things of that nature that aren't directly related to me getting paid, but it still does get me paid in the long run because it eventually works out, the project works to something that becomes lucrative.
Yeah.
So it's that balance too, because in the beginning, I just, especially in a service business like mine, it was just always trying to just, work to get paid, work to get paid, work to get paid, do a tax return, do a bookkeeping, and just constantly billing out and trying to stay financially alive. And then also going, wait a minute, I've got to spend time on HR. I've got to spend time on janitorial. I've got to spend time on marketing. I've got to get myself out there, even though I'm not directly getting paid for it. Whereas in the time of the day where I can do that, and not feel like I'm losing money.
Yeah.
So that's a big juggle too. And I feel like after 5 years, I'm finally figuring that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that too, because I know when I first started my business back in 2007, I felt like I was working just as much as I was when I was in retail management because I was, trying to do all of those different pieces. And as I got better at my job and got more clearer at like which activities were income producing activities and which were kind of foundational pieces to my business that I needed to kind of have like that, not necessarily always one and done, but there's certain things to your business that once you kind of figure it out, you don't have to go back to that process.
Yeah.
That makes it so much easier. And then knowing that you have to be marketing your business, like I tell myself and my clients, like 10 hours a week of marketing is huge. Like if you are
Oh, it is.
consistently marketing your business every single week, then your business is going to continue to grow. But as soon as you stop doing that activity, and then you get, a lot of times we do so much client deliverable work. We're working with
Mhm.
clients that we forget to market. We forget to do some of those behind the scene things. And then when that client finishes with us, like we lose that client and we haven't done the work to grow our practice at that point, especially as a service base, which I know you can relate to.
Yeah.
So I had to find that balance for myself. Like, how do I show up each week and market my business? How do I take care of all the admin stuff? How do I do the client deliverable and coaching sessions? How do I work on creating content to grow my business and to let people know a little bit about who I am and what I do and, share some of my expertise. And I had to find that balance for myself in a way that wasn't me working 60 hours a week again. It was
Yeah.
more 30 hours a week kind of tops is what I work now. I don't want to work any more than 30. And that
Me
doesn't
too.
mean sometimes when I'm not, working, that I'm not taking a shower or walking the dog or playing with the kids and I don't have an idea that pops into my head. Because as entrepreneurs, like our brains are always on, I feel like. But
They
I'm
are.
like famous for having like a note, my notes tabs in my phone are like insane. Every time I have an idea, I just go in there and I write it down so I don't forget. And then I go back to it later and then I can
That's
pull.
like my voice memes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank
Same.
goodness for those types of things though, because as entrepreneurs, like even if we're not working, we're kind of in the background, like our minds don't really turn off as much. Where when you work a corporate job, like when you leave the office, or at least I
Yeah.
did, once I left, like I was like done, like I was at home completely. Where now it's, the ebbs and flow of the day. Like some days I'm working more, and then other days my kids need support, especially with the past year with everything with the pandemic. Like I've had to really figure out how to balance supporting my kids with their virtually schooling, working my business, volunteering, doing those different things that I do, and finding like a schedule that really works for me and my lifestyle has
Yeah.
been huge.
Oh, absolutely. It is. And then making sure that there is a balance between money generating work and then, now versus money generating work come in the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely been a challenge to find that balance, but I feel like I'm just starting to try to figure that out now. Plus also I'm able now to hire staff, which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's taken a huge weight off my shoulders because I've been able to now just back off of the entire bookkeeping department. I don't even go near. I have staff for that now. I have administrative staff that helps me with all. I will tell you, modern technology, God bless it, is I couldn't imagine trying to be an entrepreneur before cell phones and apps and things that help you kind of get through your day. I mean, even just something as silly as what that like Calendly, app has been a godsend because finally I could just now it saves me time instead of having a conversation and being like, well, when can you meet? Well, when can you meet? It's like, here's my link, just make an appointment and I'll see you then. And like that right there is just like takes away some of the stress. And then, yeah, I couldn't imagine not doing it before technology. Technology's definitely helped for sure.
Well, and I think that's why you see such a rise of entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah.
So many people there, it's so much easier now to actually go after your dreams and create your own business off of the skill sets that you've learned either in your career or through college or self-educating even a lot
Oh
now.
yeah.
People are able to say, you know what, like I don't need to work for somebody else. I can actually freelance do this, or I can
Mhm.
start my own business, or a lot of people will partner with other companies and do contract work and different things like that. So they don't have to have that job per se. They're able to kind of create a schedule and a system for themselves that really works. Where if you think about it, 20 years ago, there wasn't as many people that started their own business. I was the first in my family to go off outside of working a career and
Yeah.
start my own business. And I got a lot of slack from people like, what do you mean you're going to start your own business? Like you're going to quit this, I was making good money. I had health benefits and all those things. And they were like, no, you don't leave that. Like that's success. You stay there. And I was like, no, this isn't success for me. This is exhausting and overwhelming. And I'm missing out from spending time with my kids and seeing my family and my friends. And I was just exhausted because my hours were so different every single day. Some days I was working a morning shift, some days a night shift. And I was like, no, there's
Yeah.
got to be more. Tell me there's more out there. And that was when I started like slowly starting to, I got curious. I was like, what can I do that would provide me the ability to stay home more and like go to my son's soccer games and not
Yeah.
miss all of those mom moments? Because I know I had a ton of mom guilt at the time. I was like, I'm doing all this work for my family, yet I'm not seeing my family. And that was like
Yeah.
the most important thing to me at the time and always is still. But like that was kind of what got me curious and got me to where I started researching like, what can I do? What kind of business could I start so that I can have some of that freedom and flexibility that I was so craving?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, we've been gifted, luckily, in the last, I'd say 10, 20 years where we don't have to have that old traditional mindset, like you were saying, where, You go to college, you get that job, you grow up the ranks of it, you get the 401k, you get your pension, and you retire. That was essentially the dream that my father and my mother had for me and my brother was go to school, go to college, get a good job, grow up the ranks, retire. That's what you do. But that's not the way we work anymore. We found, like you said, there's got to be something better. There has to be. So it is a trade-off because you do stress I would say you probably take on in the beginning a lot more stress trying to figure out how to be able to manage both sides of that, to spend time with the family and run a business and stay lucrative and keep a roof over your head. But then the trade-off, if you're able to do it, is great because you do get to spend more time with your kids and the roof is staying over your head and you can start to save and build a future that a traditional job was supposed to have given you anyway. Yeah. I mean, that's another reason why I wanted to go on my own too, because jobs don't hold on to you for 30, 20 years anymore. They just don't. People don't go into a job and stay there for 20 years anymore. You're lucky if you stay 5 to 6 years, maybe 10, and then you're off to another job. You've hit the ceiling, you go somewhere else. And there became a lot more turnaround I was seeing in corporate than that traditional feeling of what it was, back in maybe the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. By the time the 90s and the 2000s came around, turnover in corporate was so much more relevant, and it happened a lot more. And there wasn't that sense of security that our parents were raised with, where they felt if they went into a job, they stuck with that job and they could find a balance between life and the job. Now you don't have that. So why not try to go on your own? If you're already going to be insecure for yourself. That's what I always thought. So
yeah. Such great points, because you're right. Like we get to choose our destiny. We get to choose how we do it, what that looks like. And like, there's no point in sitting back and just watching to see what happens. Like you have to, actually go out there and take action and do the work to make your dreams happen. It doesn't.
Amen. Worst comes to worst, I can always go back to corporate. Like I have skill sets, I have degrees, I have accreditations that I can get a job anywhere. God forbid, I failed at this, which I don't believe I will. I know I won't. Yeah. I could always go back to corporate. I could always go back to the regular old 9-to-5 job if I had to. And I could earn a fine living doing that. So I think that also gave me the confidence to say, take the leap, jump, and let's see what happens with this. Because if all else fails and you fall flat on your face, you can still pick yourself up and go right back into the work environment that you came from. So
I always joke that there's no plan B, and
that
I'm
I know it's there, but I don't think about it. I don't want to think about it. Like, I can't imagine having to get up and be like on a regimented schedule anymore. I love the fact that it's like, I want to stay in bed for another 20 minutes and see what Kelly and Ryan have to say, or hang out with, like today, perfect example. My fiance's gone for 8 days up in Montecito working for his billionaire clients, and I won't see him for 8 days. So I hung out with him a couple more hours this morning because I know I'm not going to see him for 8 hours. So I got that opportunity, which was great. So, and then, but I can get all my work done between 11 and 6 today, versus 9 to 4 or whatever. So I do really appreciate that. And once you get comfortable with that and you get the confidence of that, it really does pay off, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say is your definition of success?
That's a good question. I think freedom. A lot of it's a sustainability of myself. I take care of me. My feeling of success is that I answer to nobody. I answer to myself and to my clients, and majority myself. And I think that's success. I don't live an elaborate lifestyle, but I live a very comfortable lifestyle, which I like. I don't feel like, and I've lived there and I know what it feels like to worry about how you're going to get your bills paid, or, oh my God, there's only $10 left in the bank account and I'm not going to be able to get paid until a week from now. What do I do? For me, a sense of success, because I am a numbers person, is the sense that that burden no longer is with me. I know that I've got a good enough regime going and the train's moving in the right direction, full speed ahead enough to where I've been able to give myself sustainability and a sense of comfort of lifestyle, which I think I've been trying to get to since I graduated college at 21.
Yeah.
It's just the sense that I'm not beholden to somebody else. Like I talked to you when I moved out here to Maryland, the guy I was dating at the time, I was absolutely beholden to him. He paid the bills. Like I paid the bills and stuff, yes, but I didn't contribute. I couldn't contribute as much financially to the lifestyle I was leading than he could. So it was always, my relationships weren't equal. I was always, and I watched my mother do that too. And I think that was a huge thing, is that my mother never had the confidence to go out on her own, to take care of herself. She always expected a man to do it for her. Even though my mom worked and even though my mom participated, don't get me wrong, it's that she never had the sense of confidence in herself that she could give herself that lifestyle that she thought only a man could give her. And watching that, I always thought, I'm going to give myself that lifestyle, not another man. And I think that's what my success is that at 43 now, I've given myself that lifestyle. It's mine.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I think that it is driven by, what I saw in my childhood. Yeah. The examples I was shown. Yeah.
Well, so much of what we do is based off of like the generations before us, like our ancestors, like how we've observed things, how we've taken things in, and what we've seen.
Absolutely.
So we have the opportunity to break those patterns. What would you say, because it sounds like you've done such a beautiful job of like breaking that mold and really creating the confidence in your life, what would you say has like been the secret to you creating that confidence to kind of go forward and do things your way and start your own business?
I think I'm still trying to figure that question out a little bit.
We all are.
A lot of it is just get up and go. Like, my dad always said, 90% of life is just showing up, just show up, even if it's terrifying or scary, or just show up. And I think it's getting up, just doing it over and over again, and just trying to push that rock up that hill every day, just a little bit. And I think as the more I was able to do that, the more accomplishments I could see myself making, the more that I was satisfying clients' needs, that I could see that I was good at my job. I think all of those things just slowly in little bits and little stages started to come together as a whole. And then it came to a point where it's like, I got this, where the first few years of my business, I can tell you right now, that is not what it would come out of my mouth. I was thinking, I got this. I was terrified. I never thought I had it. But just, instead of giving up, don't get me wrong, there were days where I was like, cancel my appointments. I'm staying in my PJs. I'm terrified. I'm taking a day off from the world. I can't do it. The pressure's too much. I can't do it. And I'd hide for a day. And I've done that. And heck, I could still do it next week. We don't know. But but I think it's just the next day, get up, go, move, keep just pushing the ball forward, keep doing it. And I think eventually I always had to have faith that it would come to a place where it would get easier. If you just work hard, like they always tell you, if you work hard enough, it's got to get easier at some point. And it's starting to get easier. And now I can have a bit more of that reflectiveness and go, I think it's just the fact that I just kept showing up.
Yeah.
And it gave me the confidence to just go, okay, I got this now. Yeah.
While you were saying that, it made me think of one of the quotes that I love. That it's leap and the net will appear.
Yeah.
And so often I know in my business, like there's been so many times where I've just kind of taken that leap and I had no idea if it was going to work, if it wasn't going to work, if I was going to fall flat on my face, or if I was going to bounce right up, or like what was going to happen. But I think that's like one of the like secret ingredients to being an entrepreneur is we just leap and we expect the net to appear. We don't second guess, like, is this going to work? And if it doesn't work, we get back up and we kind of dust ourselves off again and we get back out there and we do the next thing, or we tweak it, or we test it and we measure it and see what we can do different for that next time. And we just continue to go down that path.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I see being an accountant, I worked for corporations. I did for a time in Maryland because of the CPA requirement. I never worked for like a big five or a CPA firm to understand you have to get these licenses and you have to get these qualifications and you have to abide by these rules. And this is how you do a tax return. And this is what's going to happen if the IRS calls you. I mean, so there's a lot of things in my business that will send you into a heart attack. You know, the first time a client gets something back from the IRS of a filing I did, it says, oh no, your client now owes $2,000 or $20,000. And you're, oh my God, you know, and you freak out because the last thing I ever want to do is to put my clients in any way, shape, or form in a sense of liable. Trying to save them money, not make them pay more, you know, and that was very scary for me in the beginning because I was dealing with majorly liable situations that I could get sued over. I could lose my practice just by sheer ignorance of not knowing what to do. So I had to learn how to start to try to reach out to the community. Hair Hub's been a huge help in that, and just start to be like, am I doing this right? Am I supposed to be doing it this way? You know, like I have no idea. Like I'm just running around here blind, praying for the best and hoping to God it works. And 9 times out of 10, thank God it did. But there were, yeah, like you said, you leap and you pray and you hope the net catches you. But I think in my business, that net had to be there. It had to, because falling on my face could get me sued. It could lose my business, my practice. And when I don't have a mentor or somebody I can rely on to go, am I doing this right? That comes very scary. I mean, I will say, thank God for my dad. My dad's a CPA, he's a CFO. He worked for Martin Marietta for years, which is now Lockheed Martin. My mom, they own their own business now, mergers and acquisitions. So I've had, luckily, them to rely on a lot. They've been a huge help, but that's about it. I mean, other than that, I have just seriously closed my eyes, prayed and jumped and prayed for the best. And I think the gods are on my side because so far so good. I mean, but I think just being honest, being ethical, being credible, working hard, you know, following through, making sure you're not cutting corners. That was always what I tried to just stick by. If I stuck by that, I always felt like I would at least get to the other side okay, you know. And like I said, so far so good.
Yeah, you got this.
Yeah, I got this.
Got this.
So now when the IRS sends a letter, I don't freak out as bad. I'm like, oh, those stupid idiots. I'll call them tomorrow. We'll get this done.
We'll get this fixed. Yeah, nobody likes the IRS letter. That's like the worst thing in the world that you can get in the mailbox.
Yeah. Oh God, it happens. You know, it just does. And yeah, it even had like, oh God, I really won't know. But luckily, I know how to. It's learning the confidence, knowing how to handle those really tricky moments in your business. I think that's another thing of success is when you finally start to be able to handle the problems that come at you, you know, those of going, how do I handle this? How do I solve this problem? How is the best way I can solve this problem? Because that can be very, very intimidating and very scary, because you think if I can't solve this problem, it's more detrimental than it would be if I was working in a more traditional setting.
Yeah.
So that it was overcoming that too. That's what drove me to go to grad school, and, you know, and retake the exams out here again, because I felt like if I had done all that, then I'll have to learn how to solve all this, and that it'll make it easier for me. And I was right, it did. I mean, it's a heck of a thing to go to grad school and keep your business going. I mean, but I don't have kids, so you know, I think you've got to trade one for another essentially. But I do have more confidence now, and I know how to solve these problems better, getting a more traditional education on it.
Absolutely. This has been so fun, Lindsay, having you on. Before we kind of wrap up everything, I have some rapid fire questions that I love to ask all my guests at the end. Sure. And I always joke, it's more for me because I'm super curious. So I like to find out people's answers. So I'm super curious, what are you binge watching right now? Or are you?
Oh, Outlander.
Oh yeah, love me some Jamie.
Oh my gosh, give me some Jamie. And I just discovered it too. Everybody's like already on season 5, and I just discovered it. So
yeah, I read the books. Oh gosh, probably like 4 or 5, 6 years ago. Yeah. And then when the series came out, I was like, oh yeah, we're watching this. Eye candy.
Oh yeah, 50 Shades, eat your heart out.
Right. I love it. And what's on your nightstand? Are you reading any books right now?
Yes, I've started reading H.P. Lovecraft again for some reason. I love his poems. I love his short stories. Other than that, lip gloss and a nail file.
Perfect. And what do you like to do when you need a reset or recharge?
I ride my horse.
Awesome. Do you have, do you live on, is your horse on your property or do you have to go?
I wish. That's another goal. That's another point of success. And I can finally own a property long and big enough to put my horse on it. Now he's in Temecula right now.
Okay. Not too far from me.
Nope. Yeah.
That's awesome. And who would you say has been the biggest impact or influence on your life?
I don't know. Me, honestly. Me.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair answer. And what's your morning routine look like? Do you have a morning routine? Like I know some people super regiment when they wake up.
I've started to try to give myself one. So Tyson doesn't let me check my phone anymore when I first wake up in the morning because I was starting to have heart attacks. So, or having come aparts, as he likes to call them. So usually we wake up, I'll watch the news, take the dog out, have my lemon water, have my coffee, get in the shower, do and then I usually work out in the mornings, but sometimes not. I've been a little worse with that lately. And then off to work around 10:30. That's about what I do.
Okay.
Yeah. But it takes about me 2 hours to finally like get my butt out the door.
Yeah. I love a good slow morning. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, I love them. I cherish them.
Yeah.
Another good reason to go into business for yourself. You can have good long mornings. I love them.
I definitely am a slow morning person. And if I can get up and have my coffee and like journal or just hang out with the kids in the morning and not have like, you know, the days when you wake up and it's like, as soon as your feet are on the ground, you're like shower, dress, breakfast, grab the backpacks and lunch pails or whatever, drop kids off at school, go to work. Like I remember those days and I so treasure like a slow morning now.
Oh, I think if you can grab me time in the mornings, you're set because you'll never grab it after that ever. Because you're off the races after that point. So I try to make it a point at least a few times a week, to definitely grab me time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And my last question for you, and I know I can't do it today, but if I could give you a plane ticket and you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Where I want to go on my honeymoon, which is the south of France.
Awesome.
Yep.
Do you guys have a date?
Yeah, April 24th of next year.
Next year. Awesome. It's coming up then.
I know.
Travel plans may be here sooner than later.
I pray that this COVID stuff gets over soon because I'll eat anything and he's a private chef. So the only thing I want to do is get on a plane, fly into Madrid and eat my way all the way into Salerno, Italy. That's all I want to do. And like, if you look at my Google Maps right now, there is like, I am completely pinned because I've got the whole thing planned out. I'm pinned from Madrid to Rome. It's like all these restaurants I want to go eat at, even though I can't read a thing on the menu. I don't care.
Yeah, you're like, just give me anything. I'm a big foodie as well, so I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I hope next year we can travel again. I really do.
Fingers crossed. I couldn't imagine us not being open by then and the travel being open. So you should be good to go. I'm thinking positive thoughts for you because
me too. Thank you.
I'm itching to travel as well. And I'm like, let's open up these borders. I need to go somewhere, anywhere.
I know. I mean, just give me a Rosarita for a weekend for crying out loud at this point. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay, this has been so much fun having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and your busy days. I know people are going to want to connect with you. Where should they go? Do you like to hang out on any social media platforms or?
I'm on Facebook. Wiley Financial Services is my page on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, same name. And then you can find me on Instagram, same name. And then my website is wileyfinancialinc.com. Awesome. You'll get to know anything you want about me on that.
Perfect. And I know that you had a free gift for everybody. You were going to offer a financial consultation with you. Is that right?
Yes, a 30-minute financial consultation. If they've got questions about the stimulus packages coming up or the one that is in pursuant right now, second round of PPP, tax returns, estates, trusts. Yeah, I'm starting the business. What are the, the basic financial things that they need to do? Any of that, I'm happy to help.
Awesome. So generous of you. I know so many people have so many questions right now, especially with all the different loans and different things that are going on. I know you're a wealth
It's like the Wild West. So I'm trying to navigate the Wild West the best I can.
Yeah. We love you for doing that. Most of us are like, what does this mean?
Yeah, I got the answers. I know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Fun. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Attract and Stand Out podcast. Until then, make it an amazing week. Bye, everybody.